Hello, 1, 2, yeah. Hello, 1, 2, yeah. Hello, 1, 2, yeah. Right, just getting the live stream up and going. So it's going to be a bit up and down at the moment because I'm just getting everything up together. I'm also wearing a pair of headphones today because I thought I'd try out these new Yamaha, what are they called? HPH MT8 studio monitors. And yeah, anyway, so I'm wearing those for a more all-enclosed sound. I'm a bit early, aren't I, today? I'll have to think of something to do. I did have got a preview of the Novation circuit, but I said I was going to send it over to Novation, so I should probably not play it yet until they've seen it. It's just for courtesy, seeing as they're here. Right, let me have a look. Right, so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to paste that URL. Yeah. I just want to check something. I was having a bit of a funny thing with one of the camera shots. It went a bit. Okay, let me just do this now. Yep, sorry. This is more like I'm live now, but I'm afraid I'm not. I'm still doing some admin, so excuse me if this is a little bit less than interesting. You can talk amongst yourselves. Obviously, we've got our IRC chat room, which is sonicstate.com/live, where you can find that, and we've also got the YouTube live chat room where you're more than welcome to hang out. So there's two places where you can chat amongst yourselves, and if I see any questions come past that I can answer, I will. Right, I just need to remember who I'm sending this to. Okay. There we go. Need to. Nothing like watching someone doing emails live on YouTube, eh? I won't show you the contents of the email, obviously. Right. Okay. Okie doke. Right, let's have a look then. Let's see what have we got. Questions. Episode 500 is going to be August the 2nd. I've got a holiday planned on the 19th, so that will be 10 days. So, yeah, I think it's going to be August the 2nd for Sonic Talk 500. I can remember that right. Okay, case patch. Just looking at the backlog. Yeah, interesting. This week the chat room, because we seem to have been rather bothered by lots of lonely ladies in the YouTube chat room who seem to be impossible to kick off. So there's obviously some clever bot technology, but I don't see anybody there yet. But maybe that's just because they're still waiting for their algorithms to kick in. Lonely ladies with algorithms. Terrifying thought. Philip Gunn, Dreadbox Abyss review. I'd love to. I haven't got one here, so I can't review it yet. But they did say they would send one as soon as they have one available. I know they're in fairly short supply. They're selling like hotcakes. I was talking to a chap the other day, 80s musician who got in touch and said he was getting something. He bought one and he said he loves it. The other thing that arrived just the other day is the Expressive E Touche, which is, or Touche, I think it is, which is this kind of concept for a sort of XY pressure pad, but it has CV outputs and USB control. I'm looking forward to firing that up. I'm going to be reviewing that. I don't think I'll get that in before I go on holiday. I've got a lot of things to try and get done, but I will. Innovation team. Okay. Anything else? Jiggy Wig. Are you saying I'm not a lonely lady? But I would say you're not, Mr. Jiggy Wig. Right sort of name, but just the wrong words coming out of your chat line. You'll see it. You'll recognise it when you see it. You'll know what it is. Still July. I'm going away for 10 days, so I'll be away from the 19th to the 29th as you head. So there will be a week without a show. Although I am hoping to, or I've got an interview lined up with producer Mountain Bird, a Swedish producer, Along the same lines as we did with the Bang Norel. So I'm hoping that will plug one of the gaps. So obviously it won't be a live stream. It will just be a kind of published. Yeah, new. Well, I haven't got them. I've had them for a while. I just haven't had a chance to test them. These are the Yamaha HPH MT8s, which are studio monitors. They do sound nice, actually. They're quite neutral, but because they're kind of a decent closed type of thing, they're all right. Where am I travelling? I'm going to Crete, where it's going to be mighty hot, I believe. Sorry about the blackout, Michael Smith. I can't help it. My family insists that I stop work and take them on holiday once in a while, although I must admit we did have a holiday earlier in the year, which is very unusual for us to have 2 holidays like that. But a deal came up, and a friend of my daughter's and her mum are going, so there'll be some built-in entertainment for a teenage girl, which are the sort of things that you have to think about when you go on holiday. Digitact review. Yeah, that was difficult. What actually happened was they sent it and said, oh, we'll be over in a week or so to do a kind of big presentation, and I can get a bit more nitty-gritty about it and ask some questions, and you guys all published comments. And then what happened was they effectively, their timetabling changed, and it was very hard to schedule that. In the meantime, I'd put other things in those holes, in those gaps, and that means that, you know, I couldn't fit a review in. But they are coming on Monday, so we should hopefully have a fairly in-depth Digitact review or Digitact presentation with Cenk, who is a top chap. We're going to break out some of the old synths as well, so we can get some MIDI into them and see how that works with the MIDI sequencing, and I will be putting your questions. I just sent him the links to all the comments. I think he's going to be busy for a while looking at those, because there were a lot of comments. So, there will. Jay Wiley, no, I've just mentioned that Cenk is coming on Monday, so hopefully we'll have it. Yeah, Gaz versus Cuckoo Beard Showdown. Yes, I'm totally up for that. Yeah, these are Yamaha MT8, they are. It's funny that they kind of remind me of NS10s, but they've got a crisper top end, and you know, they're quite neutral, but that's not a bad thing at all. You know, when you're talking and you hear your voice in your own head coming back to you, it sounds really natural to me at the moment, which is interesting. Let's see if I've got everything here. So so today's guests are Mr. Mark Tinley and Mr. Rich Hilton. I was really hoping that we had Rich last week, because he played at Glastonbury, and we were talking about Glastonbury, so he was on stage with Chic, you know, to goodness knows how many tens of thousands of people. Estimates vary, but then you've also got to add the TV audience to it as well. So I'm hoping to hear a little bit about that. Obviously, it's not massive news at this time of year, but there are a few topics that we'll hope to cover. And and Mark Tinley, who also actually lives in Glastonbury, the town. So we'll have a bit of perspective from them. Mark runs a kind of boutique electronics curiosity store in the centre of Glastonbury, which I must go and visit. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. Roland SEO2 review. I have asked, and I was told there will be one on its way as soon as it's available. So, yep. But again, it's going to have to wait till August now, I think. There's just not going to be time to get those in. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the boutique... The thing I found with the boutiques when I reviewed the original ones is more to do with the scale of the interface, and it depends what it's trying to do, because if you look at, say, the JP08, I mean, that's a nightmare to use in the boutique format, because the faders are so teeny tiny and there's so much stuff on the front panel. But with the SEO2, they're using rotaries, aren't they? I don't know if it's got any faders on it. I'd have to look. And that might indeed... make the interface make sense, even though it's going to be quite small. Octatrack Mark II chat. I might mention it, but I don't think... I was hoping we'd have someone in who was an Electron fan, and that's obviously Gaz, and he's in a session today, so it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Your supplier says the September for the Roland SEO2. Okay, I don't know where that is, but yeah, that might mean that there are review units coming in, but I think you have to be very careful with review units because it's very easy to go, yeah, we'll be first, and then being first and being a reviewer or try to be thorough, you tend to find out things that might not be in the final thing, and you only find that out after you've filmed it and showed it to the manufacturer, which means it sets you back a bit and you put that time in. So I try and avoid anything pre-production if I can. I mean, sometimes you just got to go for it, but that's just the way it goes. It's the reviewer's dilemma. SEO2 should be first half in August. I didn't review the JX03. No, I did 3 boutiques. I thought that was enough, to be honest. I mean, it was becoming a bit of the Roland show. Got to spread the love a little bit. Elaborate on my video setup. How long did it take you to get to your current setup? Well, we started off in audio, obviously, and then we went to video, but we were using Skype multi-call and screen capture and stuff. So there's a big an octa-core Mac over there, which is kind of old but still able to deal with it. And what that does is it adds things like video playback, ad playback, screen capture for things like web pages. There's me again, and chat room, and also YouTube chat room. And that's all going into, over here, we've got a Blackmagic switcher, which takes up to 6 HD inputs. So one of them is this camera. And then there's 2, in this case, there'll be 2 Skype machines, which are little old Mac Minis that run just a copy of Skype. So these are their desktops, effectively. So they come in at full res. And then this also handles the overlays as well. And then that all goes out via USB to a streaming software which is running on a separate PC. Yeah, I know it's getting complicated, and there are other ways of doing it, but it would mean upgrading the main computer into something that was much more powerful and probably cost 3 or 4 grand. So it works, and that takes the USB output of the Blackmagic TVS, which is an old TV studio system, but it has a video stream out on USB. I think that's discontinued, but that then gets sent straight to a streamer. The streamer is, we use someone called Restream, who you send it to one point and that sends it to both Facebook and YouTube Live. Facebook comes in. What I try and do is stream to Facebook when the show starts, because YouTube will just record all of this stuff, and then I leave this version of the show just kind of on the server, unlisted but uncut, so you can see it if you want. Have I considered 4K? Yes. In fact, we just got a 4K camera for the overhead. The reason we use a PTZ on the overhead setup up there is because you can actually program in all these different shots. But sadly, to buy a PTZ camera that's a robotic camera that moves in pan, tilt, zoom, and you can save presets. To buy something that is super high quality, they're again about 3 or 4 grand at least, and that's not what we've got there. So it's all about investment. Video equipment is very expensive. Sorry, anybody else? Do I use Just Macros? Phil Johnston. Yes, I do, actually. I do use Just Macros on the streaming machine. That controls the switches. But what I'm doing is I'm using... Sorry, this is kind of nerdy inside. I'm sure I've shown this before. This is just a Korg Nano control, which I map to MIDI commands using MIDI pipe. So you can map that to scripts as well, which runs the things like video playback and what have you. But then it passes the MIDI out over the network, over RTP MIDI, to Just Macros, which switches the actual camera shots. So this stuff is Just Macros, but being controlled by MIDI, but passing through the network to switch physical inputs on the switcher. And these, like video stuff, are being intercepted by the Mac that's running Just Macros and an old program called CamTwist, which I used to use to record everything, to do it the whole show before, but that just now handles media playback and stuff. And it is possible. I mean, I know there are other systems out there, but the thing about them is they're either insanely expensive or require, like I say, a very top-of-the-range graphics machine, and either run on Windows or just PC. So the complexity of the setup, particularly when we've got external callers, that complicates things. And we went from conference call stuff to individual machines. So what happens to the people who come in on Skype, they see that screen there, so they can see the other people in the other windows and program out. So it just means you get a little bit of additional communication with the participants without having to message them or whatever. They can see what's going on. Some could be waving in a window that's offline and say, I've got to go, or whatever, and it just means that you can catch it rather than the other people will know what to do. Does that cover it? 4K. The problem with 4K is editing multiple streams, because in our camera setup here, we've got 6 streams. And editing 6 channels of 4K is a completely different video setup to what we would have. I mean, we would need serious amounts of computing. I mean, yeah, we can proxy it and all of that thing, but, if we do a shoot with someone here that's 20 minutes and it's 6 streams, it takes probably 2 hours to transcode the video files, and it all starts to get, the way that we've designed our workflow here is to try and be efficient, which means we can do more video and get it out quicker, which means it's less expensive, which means we can fund it and we can keep it going. Because if we were doing stuff where we're doing, say, an individual, we had 2 cameras and we had to do multiple takes and then build the thing up and do the narrative in the edit, then that would just take so much longer. Gosh, I've been waffling for a while. Right, we've got another 5 minutes. Are there any... we use Casper CG, says Phil Johnson. Yeah, you need a tasty machine. That's the thing. I mean, we're sort of... Until we upgrade all our video stuff, it's one of those scenarios. No need for 4K with this type of broadcast. No, the Sonic Talk stream goes out at 720, which is fine for talking heads, and so does our live stream stuff, which we do from if we do external stuff. But we're not using this system for that. We use something else. 4K is overkill. Yeah, I think 4K is really useful if you want high detail. So, for beautiful arty shots and millions of colours, I think that makes sense. But for, pointing at a piece of equipment, unless you're trying to get an 88-key keyboard in full res across the whole width of a machine, it doesn't really make that much difference, particularly when you crunch it down to get it onto YouTube. We should set up a Patreon. Yeah, we've thought about that, and we're trying to figure out whether that's a good thing or not, because... Obviously, a lot of our stuff is sponsor and advertising funded, so it makes it a little bit, when you kind of ask people for Patreon, it feels like, it feels somehow like it's not okay, because we're independent, but we run a business. So, but I'm thinking about it. There may be ways that we could run additional content to our regular content, and Patreon users could get access to that. And still, but nobody loses out. You just get more if you pay, as a possibility. I mean, but again, all early days yet. How many people work at Sonicstate? Patrick Radius. Well, there are 3 people who work on a daily basis, and various other freelancers and reviewers and news editors and show team and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, 4K just means you have to dust your gear more often for each video shot. That is kind of true. There is a degree of that. 4K will go through disk space. Yeah, that is true. 4K is big stuff. I mean, we just got a GH4R, which it has unlimited record time, and that's a 4K camera. And we're thinking of transitioning to these cameras for our show rigs. But it's, we need a few of them, and they're quite hard to come by at a reasonable price. But we did find a bargain recently. Start selling patches made by the team there. Well, I wondered about that. I don't think that's going to really generate the sort of revenue that perhaps would enable us to refinance our or re-equip our studios. But yeah. How about inviting YouTubers like Bow Beach Cuckoo? Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. And I'm we're working on trying to do something with a guy called Beardy Man. I don't know whether that's going to happen. Cuckoo, I've asked, but I think it's just a question of syncing. Maybe I'll try that again when I get back from holiday. We can kind of get into that. Any new synths coming soon? How about do I get reviews paid for? Do I get paid for reviews by companies? Sharon Lemons, no, is the answer to that. Reviews are independent. Sometimes we get paid for a product presentation if a company want to come down and send their team down and have us have a discussion about it with them. That sometimes is a paid gig, but no, we don't get paid for reviews. Jacob Huck. Okay, well, I'll check that. Did you ask I didn't ask Marcus Fuller to come down and do a teardown in the studio, but that might be fun. Although I guess he might need all his equipment. Yeah, GH5 is great, but it's also a lot more expensive, and it doesn't have features that we necessarily need in our situation. We were hoping that the GH5 would mean that the GH4s get reasonably affordable, and we could just kit up, because we've got 6 cameras here. That's a lot of money to spend on cameras. Sonicstate t-shirts, yeah, that's actually in hand. There will be some coming soon, but we'll see. Again, that all of these things add up to something, but on their own, I'm not sure they add up to more than a few SD cards in profit, unless you start printing serious amounts and figuring out how to do that. But yeah, we're working on it. But thanks for the suggestions. So just waiting for our guests. As I say, we've got Mark Tinley and Rich Hilton today. And I was thinking about playing a circuit review, but I don't think I will, because I'm going to send it to Novation first. That's what I usually do, get them to have a look, because there might be something that I misrepresented, and it wouldn't be fair if it went out publicly. But there's a shot. I'll give you a few shots of it. Oh, yeah, it's yellow underneath. Those are the connections. Modulation matrix. It's actually quite a cool system. What else have we got? It's the synth. 32 RGB velocity pads. Got a clock in and out, which is kind of cool. And it does run a Volca. So, in fact, I do put a Volca into the system, and it just runs it out of the box, which is actually cool. You don't need any adapters or attenuators or any of that kind of stuff, which is actually quite useful. What else have we got? Okay, we'll see if I can pick some shots. This is fun, isn't it? So I'm just going to grab a few occasional snapshots and give you a taste of it. Yeah. So we got MIDI in, out, and through, which is nice. USB is for MIDI. I believe it'll work with the components. Here we go. We've got a Rich coming up. Let's see. Hey, Rich.
Hi there.
Excellent. Nice to hear you. Let's just wait. I'm waiting for your video to come through. And then we've got Mark Tinley as well.
Maybe I need to jog the video because it looks like it's going. So let me kill it and rekindle it.
Kill it and rekindle it.
Yep.
Skype has gone mental.
Kindling in process. There
we
go. We've got you, Rich.
My spanking new Sennheiser
Hold on a
t-shirt.
Hold on a sec, Mark. I'm just coming to you.
I'm a shill.
Okay. Skype has gone mental. I don't know what that means, Mark. Skype has gone mental.
I don't know. It just says I can't connect. I'm on my phone at the moment. It says I cannot connect unless I download the latest version of Skype, and it won't let me do that. So while I sort that problem out, I can be on my phone, and then I can dial back in when I get it working, can't I? Will that work for you?
Yes, I should think that would be fine. So I'll get you as
I could grab an iPad. Got one of those somewhere.
That would probably be slightly less weird than that. Or you could flip it up into landscape mode. Landscape mode. Does that work?
Does it? I don't know. What's it doing now? Oh yeah, that's better.
Yeah, it's not quite so weird. Although you are very wide angle, so you got a kind of much bigger nose than usual.
Maybe I've just got a bigger nose than usual.
Yeah, well, that's possible. And also, it's a bit weird being.
What do you think you're doing, smiling, sir?
Being so close to you.
Oh, is it? Right, I'll see if I can sort something else out.
Okay.
Going. I'll just mute for a second. I'm here anyway.
All right. Okay. Cool. So that's that's the nature of live streaming, folks. We got our YouTube stream going. I haven't put the Facebook one up yet because I try and do that at the beginning of the show. I'm also sporting a pair of headphones that I thought I'd try today. They do sound nice, actually. These are the Yamaha HPH MT8s, which they sent us a few of the range, and the idea was I was going to try them out, and then maybe the panelists would like to try them as well, and we did a similar thing with the blue headphones, and I can't be anything other than yes, it's a swag thing. It happens so infrequently on this show that our panelists get. Sorry,
what were you talking? What piece of gear? I missed the beginning of this. I'm sorry.
Yamaha HPH MT8 headphones, studio headphones.
Headphones. Okay. All right.
So I'm wearing those today. They do sound good, so I thought I'd try them. Mark, what's happening there?
I've just jammed my phone in a.
Oh, that's terrible audio. Can't work with that.
It?
Yeah.
All right. Let me sort this out then. I will go sorting things. I'm trying to reboot my Mac. Sorry.
Okay. And
of course,
the leaf blower.
No, it's almost like somebody's cutting down a tree or something.
Yeah, I think that sounds like that's possible. What is that in your gaff?
Yeah, and I've got it's coming here, and it's a gorgeous. I mean, like top 5 day in of the year kind of deal. There.
It's really nice here as well. I went and sat out in the sun for a little while, and I am going fishing after the show. I've got a pass to go fly fishing. This will be my probably 5th or 6th attempt with not a hint of catching anything ever. So I'm hoping today will be my lucky day, or if not, I get to stand by a lake for a while, and that'll be fine.
You're bringing the camera crew?
Am I bringing the camera crew? No.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be doing that. The network's not so great there. Mark, how's things?
Not good.
Okay, what does that mean?
Die for evil. I don't know. It thinks that I need the latest version of Skype, but it won't let me do it. So I need to reboot into some other thing. So it's going to take a few minutes, and
have you got an iPad?
Yes,
that would be possibly better, and the mic might be better. Have you got anything you can plug into it mic wise, or is you
not here?
Okay, all right. Well, maybe try that then.
Oh no, mate! Oh no, I can't. No. Yeah, I'll do that.
So now we're getting a little tour of your house.
Yeah. Just had the garden around as well. So.
Excellent.
Tour of the garden. It looks very nice.
Oh, let's have a look, if you don't mind. I mean, obviously this is public viewing, but what the hell?
We're selling the house now, so you can...
Oh, are you? You're moving from Glastonbury?
No, I got a slight plan. Look, there you go.
Oh, that looks nice.
See all my wife's knickers as well. Isn't that nice?
They look more like bed sheets. I know she's not that. I don't think she likes pants that large.
She's a slight woman, isn't she? So she's no, they're not. They are bed sheets. You're right.
I would say if they.
Well, look, we've had that. Our gardener's done that lovely windy path down there.
Oh, that's very kind. Very kind.
If you need a good landscaper, his name is Simon Newport. There you go.
All right then.
Not every music technology show that advertises Glastonbury
extremely local gardening services. Yeah, no, not fair play. Go for it. Right. Okay. Do you want me to leave you to it, or are we going to have a?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'll dial out and then I'll dial back in. Sorry.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, as is often the case, I mean, this is the thing about live stuff. I mean, if you haven't seen the show before, you'll know that there's a certain informality to the way that we do things, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm not going to apologise. I'm just explaining, if that makes sense. Isn't that right, Rich?
Absolutely, Nick.
Yeah. Nice to see you got the mic. We've had a couple of shows where people haven't been able to get their audio devices to work, so we've had sort of suffering a bit on the audio front. So at least we know you've got your CAD mic up there for your dulcet tones.
We couldn't let that happen.
Absolutely not.
I actually did consider doing this one from out on the porch behind my house because it is that nice out. And in that case, it wouldn't have been this mic. So I'm glad I didn't now.
Well, I don't know what to say. I think that an outdoors one would be a lot of fun. I wonder if we could do something like that for the Fit 500. I think that would just add.
Well, I used to enjoy Gaz doing them from the back seat of a car and stuff. I always used to imagine him like at the top of Mount Everest with the wind blowing, going, with his iPad.
Do you remember there was one where he had to pull over and it turned out that he was outside a primary school or something, and we were really worried that he was going to get arrested for loitering with intent. What
exactly are you broadcasting here, sir?
Yeah, exactly. No, if I could just explain, that would have made for probably quite compelling podcast viewing, although not necessarily related to music technology so much.
Until you have to make bail. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you have to make bail.
Well, we would have video evidence to help him out, of course.
Well, they'd confiscate that straight away.
You think?
They'd try.
That would be tough, wouldn't it? Right. Yes, we're running a little bit late, folks, so I do apologise for that. But like I say, one of our participants is having Skype issues. I have been trying to look for alternatives, but the problem is Skype is one of the things that runs on iOS and on PCs and in the browser and all that. So, there are other things possible, but like for instance, I don't really want to have to use like Apple services because it requires a whole lot of updating, and also Google Hangouts can work, but again, I don't think you can use that on iOS, which is, as we've seen, sometimes people need to connect with an iPad or whatever. So I'm trying to find a solution to that where you've got multiple clients. I'm sure it will be inundated, but again, it's not very music technology, is it? It's more like remote broadcasting technology talk, which is not quite so snappy a title. So, right, we're just waiting for Rich. Rich is there. We're just waiting for Mark to show up. Hey, Rich.
Hi there.
So I didn't want to start the show and then find that Mark sort of comes in halfway through the credits. So that's why I'm still hanging loose here and we're still kind of treading water a bit. But, I've been reviewing the Novation Circuit. That's the mono station, that is. And that's the top. In fact, I've still got it in one of the camera slots. Actually, there it is on the bench. You can see it's there. It's hooked up with. I was using it with the NICs for external CV demonstration, and also it hooks up to Volca. It has. If you look here, there's a clock in and out, and it speaks Volca out of the box, which a lot of people will be very happy with. In, out, and through. It's got in its an auxiliary CV, which is like an auxiliary busing mixer, which is kind of cool. But I won't play it just yet. Novation are actually in the chat room. Hello, Novation TV in YouTube. Anyway, I'll throw the YouTube chat room up there, and I've only just sent them the link to say, here's the final review. Have I made any terrible misrepresentations, which I always like to do with people when I get the opportunity. It stops me from looking like a chump anymore.
And hanging somebody out to dry unnecessarily.
Absolutely. You've got it. Yeah. There's Mark, sort of. Mark, I can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh, that's... Okay, that's not so great audio, but we might be able to work with it.
I'm slowly rebooting my computer.
Yeah, but it's now 4:10. Oh, you've just gone.
Have I?
Well, your video's just gone.
There it is.
There it is. It's back.
Whoa, what's happening? Right. So
are we going to be able to do this, Mark? Because obviously we've got an audience hanging out, and it's now just
10 past.
10 past. So what do you think?
I think it will. It's seconds. I think I'm seconds away. I thought we were trying the iPad, but I.
Yeah, though the video is really ropey because it's the Wi-Fi is obviously being hammered or not reaching that far or whatever.
Hey, let me try this other thing then. Let me just see what happens now.
Okay. Well, there we go, folks. So we got some live. I guess it is kind of live tech broadcasting, but it's not the tech that perhaps you tuned in for yet. But don't worry. It's going to be here soon. So, Rich.
Yes.
So we spoke yesterday about your pending tour, and did you figure out a way of configuring your luggage to take your Rolly on the road?
I'm still grappling with whether I'm bringing the Rolly or not, but I'm leaning towards bringing it now. I don't need it for the show. This would purely be recreational.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
I hear Mark.
Well, I hear Mark too.
Good job I've got more than one operating system on the computer, isn't it, really?
Yes, I'll say. Okay.
Sounded downright mellifluous. I'd say.
So Skype no longer supports Mountain Lion then, I'm guessing.
I don't know, but perhaps we can hold that conversation and we can maybe do the show now.
Let's do it.
All right.
Sorry
Standing by. I've just... here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 498. That's right, 2 shows off the big 500, but I've got a holiday in between, so you're going to have to wait a little bit before we get there. What is Sonic Talk? Well, contrary to perhaps if you're watching the pre-show where we were snagging some communication issues, it's a music technology show. It's about synthesizers, software, controllers, live production, live performance, electronic music, all of those things. And that's what we're going to be talking about the next sort of hour or so. I want to say thank you to our competition sponsors, and that is Isotope. If you want to stay tuned, they are giving away a copy of RX6, and more details on how to enter that a little bit later on. I want to say hello to our YouTube chatties. You can find us every Wednesday at 4 p.m. or thereabouts on our YouTube live channel, which is Sonicstate, basically. If you just search that, then if you subscribe to us, you'll get a notification saying, hey, they're live. Get over there and watch it, and you can chat. Or if you like, you can join our IRC chat room, which is at sonicstate.com/live. So we've got kind of 2 things going there. So let's start with Mr. Mark Tinley. We haven't seen him for a little while, and we've been struggling to get his video going, but we got there, which is awesome. Mark Tinley, sonusmegas.com. He is, at the present time, the proprietor of an electronic instrument and stringed instrument and things curiosity shop in Glastonbury. Does that sound about right? As well as being a sound artist.
Yeah, sounds very accurate, actually. Curiosities are us, yes, indeed.
I like the sound of it. Last time we spoke to you, Mark, you were preparing for the onslaught of Glastonbury hipsters. Did that happen?
Not too many flip-flops entered, actually. It was all okay. I did have a man from the BBC in today, though, so that must mean that they've only just finished packing up. He said he'd been working on the festival site. So.
Whoa. Yeah, well, I mean, I have to say, BBC did a fantastic job. I think we mentioned that a little bit next week, but we've also... thanks for joining us, Omar. I was going to just, at that point, introduce Rich, because he was at Glastonbury also, actually playing at Glastonbury on the main stage on Sunday night with Mr. Nile Rodgers and Chic. I saw him. And it was awesome, Rich. And we talked about it last week, and I was just curious to know, what were your... Because you've done... That's not the first show you've done, is it? Is it the first show on the Pyramid stage?
It's the first show on the Pyramid stage, yes. We played in 2013 on, I think, the West Holt stage is what it's called. And we played Pyramid this time. It was amazing. It was great. Huge. I couldn't believe it. It's quite a view. I tried to take a picture of it, but it really, you
can't convey.
You tried. I tried with the panorama. And the interesting thing is, at the exact same moment I tried, the keyboardist on the other side of the stage was trying. Our timestamps are like the same minute of of the show.
So by comparison, what would you? Because when you played 2013, what actually happened for you was it was that kind of classic BBC coverage moment. You know, as well as having a great moment of the gig, there was this sort of moment where it kind of went even more global because of obviously the BBC coverage was so great, and everybody went, "Wow, I didn't realise that Chic were doing that sort of thing." What was was there a difference? Was it a much bigger arena? I mean, what's the score?
Well, there's always a component of, wow, I didn't know he wrote all those songs to our show, because people don't really realize all the things he's done, and he tries to remind them at various points along the way. But as relates to the differences between the two, I mean, from an execution standpoint, I thought we did fine both times, and from a response standpoint, both audiences were incredibly loving. This one was about, I don't know, 5 times the size, but it was extraordinary. It's a really extraordinary thing to get to share happiness and touch the lives of people on that scale.
Yeah.
But it's not in any way, I know this is going to sound really odd, but it's not in any way personally intimidating to me to be doing that. Regardless of the size.
I did, because I asked you that before, and I was just really curious about it, because I mean, obviously it's such a big. Lots of people get terrified because you got the televised aspect of it as well. But one thing that you said to me that I thought was really interesting is because the sort of respect and the ability of the band means that you don't have to worry so much about. I mean, what's going to happen? You know.
It's the safest, I said many times, it's the safest place in the world being on stage with those people in Chic. We really do care for each other a lot, and we love this music, and they happen to be great songs. It's easy to love the music. So it's just fun to do. Pardon?
I was in the crowd. The crowd absolutely loved it. It was like you appeal to every age group, from like the little ones right up to the oldies, like, you know, and everyone was dancing where I was, and I must have been probably about a mile away from you, I reckon, Rich.
You probably didn't spot it there.
The only time I saw you was on that massive screen. You could virtually hardly see you on the stage. I was so far from the stage, but
you did. I have to say, Rich, you did get quite a lot more shots this time than last time. So, you know, they obviously have more cameras for a start, bigger stage, bigger deal. So you got a lot more airtime.
Well, there was a guy right over by me. And
what's he going to do?
I always make sure to greet them early in the show and say hello.
Can I get you anything?
You know, I didn't go that far.
It sounded unbelievable as well. Boy, has that girl got a voice.
Yeah. We did. Okay, if I could just, I'm conscious that we should probably pull it back to music technology a little bit.
Yeah.
So what were you actually using? What's your onstage rig? Was it the same as everything else? I mean, is it the usual deal? I mean, just talk us through what happened.
It's my usual deal. The bottom keyboard, I have 2 keyboards, 2 88-note Roland stage pianos. Romplers, as we like to call them. And the bottom Rompler is an RD700GX and plays mostly strings and bells and some synthy combinations that I've programmed out of the ROM things that they give you. And that's sort of the coloristic keyboard. And the top one tends to be Rhodes and clavinet and organ and maybe a polysynth now and then, here and there in the show, very rarely. So the top one is kind of the meat and potatoes keyboard type stuff, and the bottom one is more your strings and coloristic stuff.
And as you've said before, they're stuff that shows up at the gig. You don't tour with that. You just tour with the sound set on a USB stick or whatever. So what's the process when you get that? I mean, does somebody deal with that for you, or do you you get your hands on the keyboard, you make sure it's all working? I mean, in a festival situation, that's tricky, right?
In our band, because of the logistics of the way we tour, I handle it myself, and I go backstage before the show. Our crew makes sure that I have ability to see the keyboards powered up backstage, and I power them up and I do what I have to do. I usually load from USB, but quite often I have stored my stuff to the internal memory of the GXs of the world. And some hilarious moments have happened where I'll walk up to a keyboard that I don't think I'd ever see, from a company maybe I haven't seen in a year, and I power it up and it's got my stuff in it. So I guess not that many people use this thing is the moral of that story. But in any case, I usually look after it myself because there isn't a dedicated keyboard tech in our crew, and it's just the best path to making sure.
I can imagine. Okay, here's a question for you. What's the most complicated song you have to play from a kind of technique and sound switching point of view?
Probably technically the most challenging thing to play is the middle section of "I Want Your Love," where the horns and I are playing.
Oh,
this,
yeah.
That thing, and playing it in rhythm and tightly with them and with both hands. That's the most challenging thing technically to execute in the show. I guess the clavinet break and everybody dance that I do, where Niall comes over and we kind of like funk out for a minute on those chords, is a bit challenging too, but it's gotten to the point where I'm so comfortable with it that we just jamming. Because it's a specific thing that he specified what that thing is, and I had to kind of like learn to play it. And now it's just I could play it in my sleep, but at first it was a bit challenging.
And so do you rehearse en masse as a band, or do you tend to kind of work separately and then get together for a quick refresher session and stuff? I'm just curious about the logistics of something like this, because there's a lot of people in the band and it's probably quite hard to get them all in one place.
Well, it's expensive to rehearse this band. I mean, let's be, honest about the logistical aspects. It's complicated and expensive to rehearse this band. So to do what we substantially do, like what we did in that show, we don't need to rehearse for it because we've just been doing it for a really long time and we know what it is. But when we introduce new material, or if we have guest artists, which is quite often the case, we schedule rehearsals and we rehearse for a while, and then the artist shows up and we rehearse with the artist and we tweak it until everybody's happy. And so there are moments where we do rehearse, and then there are moments where we've rehearsed things at sound checks, at a progression of sound checks that then becomes a thing in the show.
Right, grab it while you can. I guess that's the difference. If you're not doing a festival gig, you're doing a kind of installed gig where it's your night, then you get the opportunity to do that sort of more often, right?
Well, and also because we have an incredible sound crew that travels with us, we can get the sound checky parts of our show can be done sometimes in 20 minutes, and we can move on to, okay, we have another 40 minutes. What do we want to do? And we can rehearse.
I imagine that's very useful. Very useful. Interesting.
Having those guys as part of the band, our crew is just, I mean, I know everybody loves their crew, but I'm here to tell you these guys are freaking brilliant. And sound crew in particular, and no, not even in particular, all of them are just amazing and like family to us. And that's the thing about touring with these people. It's my second family. I can't wait to go be with them. I'm going to miss the heck out of here and my wife, but traveling with them is wonderful. It's a blast. You have to laugh a minute and we have a great time.
Excellent. Well, I'm sorry to quiz you like that, but I missed the opportunity last week, so I'm glad we got the opportunity this week.
Cool.
Well, going from one thing to something completely different, and this is something that you found, Rich. Hopefully it's going to play now. That would be awesome if it doesn't play. Excellent. Here we go. This is the UVI Ravenscroft 275 piano, which sounds very lovely, but the thing that's quite interesting about it is it's actually on iOS. So it's UVI, they do lots of great sample libraries, and they're kind of, I guess they're the other, or one of the other alternatives to the Contact engine, and a lot of people swear by their stuff. French company, and it sounds really nice. And the Ravenscroft piano is like a custom thing, isn't it? It's like a really super, the actual piano that they sampled. Okay, well, so we'll come to that. I feel that I should give Mark a quick chance to chat. I'm imagining, Mark, you're probably not in the market for a beautifully sampled piano to run on your phone or iPad, but it's weird, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it, to see that's we're now entering the world where that device is going to be used for high quality, or what would be perceived as extremely high quality samples, if it were only a few years back. So now that's becoming more of a dedicated machine for that kind of stuff. I mean, you needed, a gig or thereabouts of storage to run it, but there you go, right?
It is bizarre. I mean, all of this music technology stuff is bizarre. From having, when I started doing it, a BBC Model B was the first thing I used for sequencing on, or a Sinclair ZX Spectrum. So, and that had 48K of memory, but most of that memory was used for the program. So I could probably store, as a sampler, I could store 32 kilobytes.
Yeah, it kind of
samples, So, I mean, the fact that you can have like this thing, which is basically like a pane of glass, and you can put it in your handbag or your rucksack or whatever, and just kind of pull it out and you've got like that quality of piano sound. Is absolutely extraordinary, isn't it, really?
Yeah, no, it is totally. I mean, I know, Rich, you were keen on this one, and you said it actually sounded pretty good. I mean, you're a pianist, and so, you know, but it's an interesting call. I think it's about, let me see, what did I find it as? Well, impressions first, and I'll line up the screenshot.
I think, like I mentioned, it's for what it is, what it costs, and what it does. It's pretty remarkable. And there is somebody who's written an AU shell for it that has a lot, I think, more layers that runs on your desktop computer as well as a plugin. It sounded really good. I was impressed. There's a nice selection of microphone choices and things you can do with it. And given that it's running on one of these, it's a pretty remarkable thing.
Have you found any polyphony limitations? Because I'm guessing it's either got to run it from RAM or stream it from the storage or stuff. I mean, or have you not been able to kind of work it out?
I didn't get a chance to test it like that. I didn't have it wired up. I was using Bluetooth and I was using the C board, and I don't generally get that much. I don't like have a pedal down and start going like this on a C board. It's not that.
It's
kind
not
of
that.
music.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So I can't really answer that question.
No, that's cool.
I assume it's cool, but I don't know.
$35.99, which is interesting because it's actually cheaper in many ways than what you would consider to pay for a piano sample library if it were in Contact or, you know, maybe UVI or whatever. So I mean, the fact you get the app as well. I guess they've got a kind of general sample playback app. I think it's $35.99. You need iOS 9.3. It's compatible with iPhone, iPad, and iPod. So imagine running that on your iPod Touch.
Okay, Chat room to the rescue. The full library is available for $199 US as a UVI library for Falcon or such.
And I guess that's going to have more. That's going to have more. Yes, if I put the chat room on, that's going to have more. Thank you very much, Nick.
Nuck
Foggett. Okay, I've got to be really careful how I say that. So yeah, I guess you've got different layers, and it's going to be a lot larger in those sort of terms. But yeah, an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah.
So well, there were a few points. What is it? Real sympathetic resonance, sustained pedal modeling, 1,000 release samples for true connectivity, true staccato. iPhone 4 or newer. Now that's a bit crazy. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I know that we had it last week, and it did. The demo did sound really good, so I'm kind of keen. I guess the thing is, though, it's like this, Mark, isn't it? You know, once you've built the engine that'll do that kind of level of sample playback, we're going to see more of this stuff, and people were going to consider maybe running an iPad Pro as opposed to, I don't know, maybe a Mac Mini for live sounds. I don't know whether or not that's the sort of thing that one would do. I mean, you'd have to solve a number of powering and audio interface issues to get you through a long gig to be confident that it's not going to die or, you know.
I wonder if they're going to continue making Mac Minis.
You think?
I think any moment.
Wondering.
Oops.
Go. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
Any moment we are going to explode. The music technology scene will change completely. Why do I sound like Spike Milligan? Shall I stop doing that? I've got like this idea. I've had this idea for a long time that something's going to be like a very groundbreaking thing. So we've been throwing the same things at the ever increasing technology, but any moment now it's all going to shift. And the reason I know this for sure is because I've got a friend who has a fab lab, and they invited me over and they showed me a 3D printed thing, except it was a mechanism. And I looked at the mechanism and I thought, how on earth could you dismantle that? And they said, you can't, it's printed like that. So the 3D printer prints the whole thing with all the gaps in and all the pins that make the thing work. So it actually prints everything in situ. So that if you apply that mindset to music technology, and we could work out how to move from assembling things to being able to make them already pre-assembled. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Using that as a metaphor. There's something that somebody hasn't thought of yet, that any moment they'll think of it and they'll go, oh my God, we could do that with this technology. And it will be such a huge leap that we're all going to go, wow, why did nobody else think of that? But we have the power now to do the most amazing stuff. So I'm just waiting for that thing to turn up on my doorstep and for me to, like, I don't know, just the whole thing to go to another level. So I think these things are very clever, and it's very clever that we can kind of condense things. I mean, you could probably almost play that piano from your Apple Watch, couldn't you, with some kind of Bluetooth link?
Wow, that's
something else has got to happen any moment, really, if you think about it, because we've got the technology now to. It's just somebody's going to have that idea that will just take. Because I'd never thought about printing something already assembled, so you could never disassemble it. It just is the thing, and it works.
Well, apart from when it breaks, and then you're in trouble, I suppose. That's the.
We just print another one. I mean, this was a thing with a really complex kind of an opening and closing, kind of all these leaves that kind of close in on the top of each other. Most extraordinary thing. So, but I don't know. The idea of printing it and printing all the gaps as well, and printing it as a mechanism had never occurred to me. So if you
I see what you mean.
Metaphorically to music software, somebody will do something.
A quantum leap kind of thing.
Any moment.
I'm going to throw a quick curveball in here because people in the chat room have been asking about it, and it was a kind of big piece of news. And it crashed the Electron website. This is the news that there's an Octatrack Mark II, which traditionally has been quite an esoteric and niche, but you see it a lot. I did at Cymru Beats. We saw quite a number of them. Probably two. There were 5 performers, and I think I saw 2 of them. And there are other people there with them. And this is the Electron kind of sample, playback, sampling, sequencer kind of gizmo. Well, it's not a gizmo. It's like a system. And they've introduced the Mark II, which has the look of the Digitac, got the new buttons. I don't know what else they've changed. I think they've upgraded the components and maybe the D2As, but I'm not sure what else is going on there. I don't know if any of you have ever tried an Octatrack. Have you, Mark, had a chance to check one out?
No.
No, okay.
I did try something called an Octa something in the past, though.
Right.
many years ago, but
probably wasn't that. Well, it's been out for a while. I don't know. I don't know whether you saw that, Rich. Whether there's whether you've seen or experienced an Octatrack in operation, but it seems like a great thing for playing live. So I'm wondering if that's going to get a bit of a extra kick of sales because it's several years old now.
Is it? Didn't they just release a sample playback sequencing device? Wasn't there just a new product from them in the last year that was a smaller version of something like this, and Nick's holding it in his hand? Is that it?
Yeah, well, you've got the Electron Digitac, which is a sampling drum machine.
Oh, no, I'm talking... Oh, okay, yeah, right.
But that, I mean, that came out earlier in the year. In fact, those of you who've been waiting... Sorry.
How is this different from that?
It's a multi-track sample playback, so that it'll play back whole lengths of stems of audio, plus it'll sequence samples. It's got effects engine. It's more of a real-time processing, whereas the Digitac is more of a traditional drum machine kind of vibe.
One-shot. That's more like your one-shot trigger sampler.
More like, yeah. I mean, it'll do...
The drum machine one, the more recent one. I see.
The Digitac will do 30 seconds. In fact, I know a lot of you have been patiently waiting for our Digitac special, which is going to be happening on Monday now. Electron are coming on Monday. Jenk's coming down, or Cenk. So I know you've been waiting a long time, and I made some sort of feeble excuses. The one excuse is we had it slot booked. They got delayed because they had something else to deal with. In the meantime, I filled up all the time around it, and then they couldn't get back. So this is the earliest we could do it. So I do apologise for that, but it will be coming hopefully before I go away. There'll be a kind of a more in-depth look at it with a lot of the questions that you were asking in the comments that I asked. And they've been building up over the last 6 weeks or whatever it is. They will be answered. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So, but the Octatrack, $1349, $1449. I think it's going to be available in August. So yeah, it's kind of, and we wonder whether or not they're going to start to reintroduce this new livery and new componentry to the other things in the range, like the Analog 4, that kind of stuff. I guess it may happen. I mean, that would make sense to unify it. It's going to make manufacturing and stuff a lot easier, which is often what you have to consider if you are indeed a manufacturer, no doubt. I think it's probably time to have a word from our competition sponsors. So I'll see if I could get that to play, and then we could say thank you very much to Isotope, because we're looking at RX6. Here we go. RX6, new version of their widely acclaimed audio restoration, which does a lot of extra things now that you wouldn't consider at the beginning. D-Click, which is really handy for headphone bleed, hum it, ground hum, amp noise, that kind of stuff, spectral repair, all of those great things, noise reduction, spectral de-essing, which is a very powerful tool as well. There's also debreather, which is something, if you've ever had to edit pop vocals, you might well appreciate. There you go. Mouth noise removal, deplosive, all of those things. So it's not just about vocals though. If you've got something that's like a great take and you just want to fix, declipper's very, very useful. De-reverb, that's also very useful if you've got like an interview or whatever. I mean, it's just a whole suite of stuff. Please do check it out. RX6, isotope.com/RX or RX6 will get you there. There's a 10-day demo for all of their stuff. Well worth checking out. And obviously we ran a competition last week and I asked you to tweet the hashtag DepopDhum and RX6, and we've got a winner, and they are Disgraceland_UK on Twitter. I see what you did there. It's kind of like almost a Banksy kind of thing. Disgraceland_UK. You are last week's winner, so please do get in touch and we'll get the Isotope people to drop a copy of RX6 in your inbox. While we're on the subject, we have another competition this week, which is again a copy of Isotope RX6. They've been very generous with this. I was going along with the de-click denoise kind of thing. So this week's hashtag is declick denoise. That's one word, so you type it as one word, declick denoise, and the hashtag RX6. And if you tweet that to @Sonicstate, and @Isotope Inc., that'll get you into the competition. It is a Twitter-based competition, I'd just like to point out. So the hashtag declick denoise and the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And please feel free to use up those extra characters you've got in the tweet to, send any information, embellish photos, whatever. We know that the folks at Isotope do monitor it, and they see them coming by, and they've got in their recreation area, they've got these big screens which kind of monitor social media, and they always see the competition entries going past, and I think it gives them quite a good buzz. So let's keep that buzz going. So yes, and they go past pretty fast, I can assure you. So anyway, thank you very much to Isotope for sponsoring the competition. Very much appreciated. So let's move on to what other topics have I got here? There's a few. Oh yeah, did you see this was cool? That's not it. It's this one. I do beg your pardon. This appears to be sponsored by Tascam. This is Grammy-winning Robert Carranza, engineer.
I make records for a living. For the past 27 years now, I've been in the music business. Worked with a variety of scope, from Jack Johnson to Marilyn Manson, to salsa music, to reggae, to funk, to the grimiest hip-hop, to the darkest metal, and film scores. I started off as basic as it gets, with a Porta One studio. My wife bought it for me as a gift. It was my girlfriend back then. She used to work.
I don't think I'll play the whole thing, but the thing that was interesting is that it was a bit of a sort of a kind of clickbait headline. But basically, he still uses his Tascam Porta One, which, for those of you who perhaps don't know what a Porta One is, I have got a photo I prepared here. And I actually used to have one of these. I remember now because I saw this and I thought, yeah, I had one of those as well. And it was after the 244 I had that. And this introduces a number of things. And obviously, he's a tape guy and he uses it for maybe some informal stuff. Obviously, he knows what he can get out of it. And, it's a cassette. It's not going to be the greatest thing. But there are two aspects to this topic, really. One is, what do you think of that? And the other one is, what have you still got and still use that you've had the longest? So, Mark, I'm going to start with you.
What do I think of that? I think it's bloody brilliant. And if you find a tool that works for you, don't give it up. It makes perfect sense to me. And not only that, I used to have a Porta One, actually, thinking about it. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore.
I'm sure.
I do remember them being quite good.
I think it had batteries. I think it ran on batteries, but I can't remember.
I know the X15 ran off batteries. You could buy an extra battery pack thing that you could put on the back of it, and it just ate batteries, I seem to remember.
Yeah, don't rewind. Just turn.
I had bought a Porta Studio recently, actually. I did buy a Yamaha, what is it, an MT-04? No, it's not that. I can't remember. MT-44, something like that. Because I've got loads and loads of cassettes of things I recorded when I was younger, which I want to be able to access. And actually, also, if you're if anybody else asks me to copy cassettes, I just put the thing on double speed, whack 4 outputs into a DAW and record, forwards and backwards all at the same time, so I can record a cassette into a computer in a quarter of the time, which is quite useful, isn't it?
Ah, nice trick.
And it also has various different Dolby ons and offs and all sorts of different things, so you can play around with the sound and the noise reduction of it. In terms of, have I still got anything that I've used for years? Yes. My favorite thing that I still have is a Powertran MCS1 sampler, which is a digital delay, but you can freeze the delay. But the coolest thing about it is that it has a click track. So what you can actually do is you put it in sampler mode, you press the record button. It's the first sampler I had that waits to hear a signal before it jumps into record. Again, it's got 64K of memory, I think. So I can whack it in record mode.
That's shorter than the counting.
But I can, well, no, because you can put it on this ridiculously low sample rate, and it's only 8-bit as well.
Yeah.
But I stick it in record, and then I can start playing a riff. When I start playing the riff, the click track starts playing. When you get to the end of the click track, you can whack it into a loop, and you can make it loop, and then you can keep overdubbing things by turning the freeze on and off. And it really is. I think it's probably one of the first delays that could loop. Powertran did have one before that, I think DD1000, was it?
Right.
But this thing is just really cool. It's really cool for like playing around with ideas, and the thing you can do with it that you can't do with any of the modern loopers is you can speed stuff up and slow it down. But I don't mean in a time stretch kind of way. I can slow things down an octave, and then my favorite thing to do is to punch it in and out of record. So I'll like hit the guitar and then punch it in and out of record. So I've got
like
these these jagged little shards of things. And then I end up with a sample, which I could save into a BBC B microcomputer if I had the
time,
or will or whatever, or just record into a modern, record it out of the MCS1 and back into a modern computer. And I do play around with it quite often. It's a very cool thing.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's always good to hear that there are still things around. I guess, Rich, it's over to you now. I mean, I'm guessing, in the world that you inhabit, which is studio sessions, people who are, time is money and we've only got the artist for X number of hours or whatever. Perhaps you don't get to indulge your old passion of whatever you've had for years and years. But I may be making a massive assumption there. Yes, I am. Good. I'm glad. Put me right, Rich. You'll have to unmute yourself first.
Okay. Somebody pour him.
Somebody get a drink. Somebody take a drink.
Somebody take a shot. Well, I've been gigging since I was 15 years old, so it makes sense to reason that I might have some cool old stuff kicking around. But so I'll answer the second question first. The cool old stuff. I have an original Mutron phaser from the 1970s.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I have a Boss CE2 chorus pedal from the same period of time.
Nice.
I have two Philco Tube 78 players radios in wood cases from the 40s downstairs.
Before
so
your time.
as much as I don't give in much to romance when it comes to old gear, I do actually get romantic about certain kinds of wacky stuff. Historic mechanical musical instruments interest me, though I don't have many. I actually have a Yamaha CP60 upright electric grand with MIDI in my garage that if you want it, you can come and get it. Parts of it are broken, but it's there and it works. To some extent it works. Some of it doesn't work. Anyway, but getting on to this guy's Porta Studio, another thing that's little known about me is that in the mid-'80s I worked at a high-end audio-video consumer audio-video dealer on Long Island, at which I worked in the service department, and we were authorized Tascam. So I sort of became the guy who tuned up everybody's Porta Studios.
Ah.
So I knew a lot. I had worked in major recording studios already, and I knew how tape machines worked, and that was actually something I could do for them that, without a lot of electronics training that I didn't have. So I became sort of the Porta Studio tune-up guy on one level. I also used to tune Nakamichis and a whole bunch of other stuff. But So I know a lot about these machines. A ridiculous, and the fact that guy's still works is an absolute freaking miracle to me. but it's I actually have been in and out of Porta Studios more than most people you know.
Oh, interesting. Could it be improved upon from the factory setup? Could you get it to kind of perform better, or did it require, or would you match it to a specific tape formulation to get the best out of it?
Oh, it could be improved. Yeah, it could be made to sound really good. They had, if you didn't follow the tune-up procedure that they provided to you in the manual, whereas if you did, it was going to sound kind of like that. But you could actually get it to sound good by, I used to bypass the DBX and tune the thing up and then engage the DBX. They wanted you to tune the thing through the DBX compander, which made no sense to me whatsoever. So I developed my own procedure, and I actually made jumpers and stuff to make this work, and got really good at making Porta Studio sound great. I could make that guy's Porta Studio sound great.
Well, there you go. Maybe you did. You didn't realize it, and that's possible. Why you're still using it. Yeah. If
he was on Long Island in the mid '80s with it, then I probably did.
Yeah, Robert Carranza. One of his quotes. I mean, he did like Jack Johnson, Marilyn Manson, Los Lobos. So he's got Grammys. One thing he says, not to put the Grammys down, but the Porta one means more to me than the Grammys. It's one of my most prized possessions. It got me into the business. So that's one thing he did mention at the time. It kind of got him out of the garage and able to kind of get into the recording side. And for many of us, it was the same. And that kind of transition that technology enabled that transition.
I can relate to that because the other most valuable, precious piece of gear in my lifetime that's still where it was is the Steinway 1914 6-foot grand piano that I grew up playing, which remains in my father's living room. And that would be like you could have all the awards in the world back, but you can't take the piano kind of thing if I were given that kind of choice, which I don't know if I ever will be. But that's another one of those really, really old historic pieces. I guess going back to 1914, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. My partner, Jane, she's got an old Bechstein, which we think is not about his turn of the century, 1900, somewhere around there. And, it does need to tune up and what have you. But, I mean, I didn't grow up. Look, we had a really crummy piano in our house, and it wasn't really, it was bought because I was learning the piano, but I used to take the front off it and record it and stuff. And it just, but I miss that physicality. But the neighbours always used to complain because I always used to get creative after hours, and we lived in a very small terraced house, so it didn't work. I was just trying to think what it was that I've still got that I've had for years and years and years, and it's not. I might just go and quickly grab it, actually.
Okay, the betting window's open.
The what?
The betting window. Is he coming back with a teddy bear? Oh, no.
Oh, it's a guitar.
It's not a teddy bear.
Yeah, it's actually a guitar, which is kind of weird, but I started out in the Porta Studio world with sort of drum machines and guitars and synthesizers beforehand. And this guitar here is a Burns Split Sound 1962 original split sonic with those kind of weird pickups with wild dogs and all of that kind of stuff. And the thing about the history of this guitar is when in my first band, this was the guitarist's guitar, and I used to play it, and what have you, because it would be lying around. So that's what I learned to play my modicum of guitar ability on it. And then it ended up being sold to somebody else, and I managed to buy it back off them. And the thing was, I mean, we're talking, I would be 15, 16, so 35 years ago at least. And plus that, it's older than me. So it has this very specific sort of thing. But in terms of synthesizers, it's more difficult because one tends to buy and sell things and upgrade and what have you. And particularly if you don't have the funds to hang on to stuff, it does rotate. But the other thing I used to have was this Trantec DIY kit that I bought secondhand off some kind of place, and it was just like a rack of modules that are somebody built, and it had a little bent bit of aluminium with a patch bay in it. And there was an EQ, a little parametric to use that. And I remember the sound of the vocals in a number of things that were the first sort of bedroom remixes that we did went through the Tantec, and the Tantec was like a Keypex, but way more vicious and ran probably at -20. So anything you put into it would be hitting it really hard. And I remember it had an indicator light when it was going, and I don't know whether it was because I was hitting it so hard, but it blew up and popped and sort of split the little red LED split, so I could never see that anymore.
Wow.
And I wish I'd still had that because it was very much a part of the sound. But the other, I still have my D110. Which was which was the first synth that I bought for multi-timbrality, and I still have that, and I used to use it on loads and it enabled, when you had that in a computer, it was just like, oh my god, I can create these entire opuses of stuff. And so I don't use it, to be fair, because
can I be the question asker?
Yes, please ask.
What do you not have now that you still wish you had? What have you sold that you now think, oh my god, I wish I'd still got one of those?
I wish that I'd kept my Mirage and Sonic Mirage. There's something about the sound of that, and it may be one of those memories that when you hear it back again, you go, what? But there was something,
I think you're right, actually.
There's something about the sound of that that I don't think it was, there's nothing specific necessarily. And it had nice filters, for the time, but it's more about what it enabled me to do when I had it. It opened the creative doors to a lot of things that made me go, wow, I can make this. And I think it's more that than maybe the sound quality of it. And I'd like to have that still. I don't know. What about you, Mark?
Me? Yeah. Akai S900, actually, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you could have, I used the first thing I sequenced an S900 with was a TR909. So I ran the S900 full of samples, and I had like a few bass notes that I needed for my bass line, and all the rest of them were samples, which I triggered off each of the 16 keys on the TR909. So it's literally the first 16 notes of a keyboard, isn't it? And I think the kick drum and the snares are the wrong way round, or not the general MIDI way round. But I used to write songs on the 909 and run all the samples out the S900, and it cascaded samples in a really interesting way when you re-triggered them. And it had a very specific sound to it. And I might like to do that again. Actually,
I think a lot of people would still buy. I know some of the producers that I've worked with have picked up the S900s or S950s more because they've got more memory. And because I gave all my old sample discs, I had a big box of sample discs of S900 to Will, and he's got a Will from Goldfrapp, and he's got my sample disc and an S900.
But the Compander in it was clever as well, because it had this kind of DBX circuit in it, which made it sound way better than a 12-bit sampler. And I don't know how it managed it, but you could sample a cymbal in there at 10 kilohertz and play it back, and it was still bright. So there was some kind of
trickery
enhancer or exciter in there as well. So it didn't have quite as good a bottom end as the S1000. When the S1000 came out, the bottom end of that was much better, but then that didn't ever play in time, did it? The S1000, it was all over the place.
No, it was all over the place. At least the stereo imaging was sort of all right. I know. I guess the same question applies to you, Rich. Is there something that you wish you'd not sold?
A couple of things I wish I still had. One is my Wurlitzer Model 200A piano.
I've got one of those.
I wish I still had it. Do I? But then again, I have a clavinet sitting right over there that I'd never, ever, ever use. So I know that if I had it, I still wouldn't use it. The other one, which I don't even know how you'd use today, is the Garfield Dr. Click that I used to use in the early 80s in my productions during the FSK days. And that's why I say I don't know quite how you'd use it in today's world. But in addition to breaking clocks up into any possible subdivision you needed to make any kind of gear you had in the room work in time, it also had two separate control voltage sections with continuously variable waveforms that could be operated in rhythm with those clocks at any subdivision you wanted, and you could do all kinds of incredibly cool stuff with those control voltage sources. Now, in today's world, there's probably 100 analogous products in Eurorack that do this. But for me at the time, there was nothing else that could do anything like that, and it was really great to have it.
So do you, I mean, again, does it sort of go back to the kind of concept that I'd had, which was, it's not necessarily the functionality, but it's the memory of the doors it opened at the time. So
it's the romance.
Well, is that romantic? I mean,
It is. It is. For me, it is.
In terms of,
because it was like pushing rocks uphill. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah, no, I know.
But it allows you to do things that you can't do with anything else. So you're talking about time code and being able to spit time code out in weird ways. C-Lab Notator allowed you to spit Sync24 time code out and to stop and start it in patterns. So when I switched between patterns, I could make 303s step back in the bar, if that makes sense.
Right.
So instead of your 1 bar loop in your TB303 always playing the same thing, you could move it back like a 16th note or like a quarter note or whatever, and start the loop in a different place without having to change the pattern. And it just did something completely different. And you could do stops and starts in between patterns when you arranged patterns into a song or whatever, and all those kind of gaps and those drops we used to do back in the 80s.
Yes, well,
yeah.
But you couldn't do it with anything else. There's nothing I know of that would allow you to do that, and then to be able to. So then that meant I was free to twist all the knobs around and make it do all the squelchy things. So
yeah.
Well, Synclavier would allow you to do that, but there was a pretty significant difference in cost.
Yeah. That's very true. No, that's interesting. I mean, I think now, this the thing that I see a lot with people who are working with modular systems. They have a lot of modules that will kind of subdivide and process clocks in different ways. So you got your master in, and then all these different ways of kind of offsetting and re-triggering and dividing in various, and that, I guess that's a similar kind of concept if that spits out those sort of things, but it means that you have to get involved in all of that world. And I know a lot of us are kind of resistant because it's a whole can of worms when it comes to a lot of things really. So you have to be kind of quite prepared to dedicate your life to that way of doing things once you start. I don't know, has that any of that world crept into the commercial aspect of what you do, Richard, or is it's very far away from what's required for the job?
It sometimes it does. I mean, every now and again there's a run out and get me a Heil talk box moment, where you got to go out and get some kind of old mechanical. Do you remember the Heil talk box? It had a speaker driver about the size of a quarter.
Yeah, it's like a bullet, wasn't it? Mid-range bullet.
And then it would come up a tube and go into your mouth, and it was
Make
that
all your
old Peter
teeth fall out.
Frampton, "Do you feel like I do" sound.
yeah.
And every now and again, we will have what I call the Heil talk box moment, where it's like, run out and get me a, what did Groucho say about something about it? This would make sense to a 4-year-old child, and he said, "Well, run out and get me a 4-year-old child because I can't make any sense of it at all." It's kind of like that, run out and get me a Heil talk box. Run out and get me a, so we do have those moments now and then. Not so much run out, but order one these days because there's no such thing as retail anymore. But
yes, there is.
Outside of Glastonbury and
I've survived a year, more than a year, actually.
Bless you.
Yes.
I wish I'd seen it. I really do.
I wish you had as well. I would have loved Niall to come in as well, because then we could have done the photo. The cheesy photo they always have in the Italian ice cream parlor
with him on the wall.
Guy with his arm around all the different stars like Robert De Niro or whatever. I think I need to start plastering my walls with all these weird signed photographs of strange people. Well, not saying Niall's strange or you, but
you can start with Sonic Talk broadcasters.
Yeah, well, we'll do it. I'll come down and do it at some point.
Yeah, do. Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Then people will go, "Who the hell's that?" Yeah, quite rightly. Well, it feels like, I hesitate to start any more topics because we're kind of at 5 o'clock. So I think maybe it's we'll save some of these. I know, Rich, this is going to be the last time you see for a little while because you're out on tour, aren't you? You're going on the big leg, as it were.
Yeah, it's a lot of traveling. This is a bus tour, and we're covering some serious mileage in the U.S. So my availability will be very spotty for a little while.
Well, I hope you have a lovely time, and I'm sure. Just out of curiosity, where can people find out about those dates if they wanted to come and catch you somewhere in the northern hemisphere?
I just posted some of them on my Facebook page. I'm sure if you just run Earth, Wind, and Fire Chic Tour dates 2017, you're going to see a list of them in any given search engine that you use. But I don't know of any exact website address.
No, but I'm sure it could be found. And of course, I don't know if you're a friend of the show, John Van Eaton, is actually one of the crew, or certainly was. I don't know if he still is, but he was going out with Earth, Wind, and Fire. So you'll get to see him again. We did an interview with John Van Eaton. He's like a kind of, he's like this legendary. Is it key tech or guitar? I mean, just stage tech generally. I think he does a whole bunch of stuff with a massive, and he's a really interesting guy. And so you'll get to presumably be reunited with him from time to time, even though obviously you'll be operating in slightly different schedules. But so say hi to him when you do.
We should have a few good catering room dinners together, I would think.
Excellent.
Hopefully.
That sounds like great fun. Well, have a lovely time, Rich, and you're probably going to miss episode 500, which is at the moment looking like it's going to be August the 2nd, I think.
That happens to be a day I will be home.
Ooh, that's good news. Right,
that's when what's today is the 7, 8, 9. No, today's the 6th. The 496 is today. The show?
This is 498.
8?
Yeah. 499 will be next week, and then there's a break for 2 weeks.
Ah!
So, what are you going to do? Have you got a plan?
No. Not yet. Not yet. I think Dave Spears is coming down here. I haven't really. I know
I should be able to make that.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll just make it a kind of big party style thing, and there'll be lots of laughs. That's the plan.
Cool.
Get as many. I know we can only usually get 4 people on, but I'll try and get as many as I can. And
maybe I should come as well to you as well, and then that frees up a slot for a person that can't.
An external, yeah, that could work. I'm sure we could make that work. That would be a lot of fun. Anyway, this has been slightly rambling on my part, and I do apologise if you were expecting some tightly focused music tech talk, but that's the way we roll. As I said, it's an informal and fun gathering, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget, if you're interested in entering the competition to win Isotope's RX6, basically you just need to enter via Twitter. We're looking for the hashtag DClickDenoise. That's one word. That's DE-click and DE-noise. So DClickDenoise, if you see what I mean. And the hashtag RX6, and you tweet those to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So that's the hashtag DClickDenoise, the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And you'll be able to enter the competition, and we'll pick another one next week. And while I'm away, I don't know if I might have mentioned it on the show. I think I mentioned it pre-show. I'm hoping to do an interview with this producer, a guy called Mountain Bird from Sweden. So that'll be one of the holes that'll slot. But it won't be a properly numbered Sonic Talk. So it won't offset the actual 500. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So. Once again, we encourage you to subscribe to Sonicstate. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got a whole series on Ableton coming up. We've got some stuff with Tim Exile. We've got the Novation Circuit Monostation review coming up. We've got there's a whole bunch of things planned and in the system and ready to go. So thanks again for watching, and thank you very much, Rich, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I hope your packing goes according to plan as you miniaturize everything you possibly can for lugging
great.
about. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you.
And have a great trip. And also, Mr. Mark Tinley, thank you for persevering and finding a Skype machine that finally worked for us so that we could talk to you, and look forward to it another time.
Indeed. Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Pleasure as always.
That's it for this week. I want to say thank you very much to our panelists and everybody else, and thank you to all those folks in the chat rooms. That's the YouTube live chat, and also our own IRC chat room, which I'm just about to play a video. Pressed the wrong button because I wasn't looking. I think I can get it to show. There we go. The chat room. Oh, lots of words in there. See, you can go and check it out.
It's anyway, different. I'm in the YouTube one.
There we go. There are 2. So thanks everybody for joining us. That's it for this week. That's this button I need to press now. Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time. Thanks, folks. That was great fun. Thank you for sharing that stuff with me. Sorry, I muted you guys because I was I got... the finesse and the touch and the subtlety of that was beautiful, Richie. I think you demonstrated it perfectly. You should get an endorsement deal.
I put the Roly thing on my iPad the other day. That's quite good. Have you tried that?
Run what? Sorry.
The Roly thing. What's it called?
Equator something or other. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. No, it's not called that.
I'll tell you what. I've got one of these. Have you seen this?
It's called Seaboard 5D.
Okay. I've got the.
What's that?
Yeah. That is a Expose Touche, which is this
it's
kind
like
of
a massive guitar pickup.
Well, yes, it does, but it's actually it's a pressure and positional sensor that outputs over control voltages and also over MIDI.
And
so you can use it. It's kind of like one Roly key, Rich.
Well, this is
then you put your foot up there and he shines your shoes.
Yeah, it looks a bit like that as well, yeah.
They've glassified the Roly thing. I can't show you on here. It's too shiny.
That's all right.
Roly Seaboard 5D.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. It's a fun thing, and it works fairly well in terms of touch. Right, I'm going to chip off because I want to get my video out, and I want to go and go fishing because I'm going fly fishing this evening to not catch anything again. But that's just the way I roll.
Where do you do that then?
I'm going to go to a place called Barrow Tanks, which is out towards Barrington Gurney, so it's on the A39 road.
And why don't you catch anything?
Because I don't know how. I don't know what I'm doing.
Can't you get?
No, there's never anybody there. What I do is I obviously go at the wrong time and just stand by a lake. And I'm not very good yet, and I need to. You need to know what kind of flies to use, whether to go floating ones or sinking ones, and I don't know any of that stuff. I'm still kind of working.
But do you do the meditation bit? The kind of staring at the lake and going into that kind of blank, magical space.
I go into the walking round with a pair of sunglasses on, trying to see if there are any fish breaking the surface to start with. And last time I went, it was a beautiful day, much like today. And when I got there, it was exposed and it was just really windy, so there was just nothing. But it was lovely. It was lovely. I sit and listen to my audio book, and I just sort of, try not to break anything. And so yeah, it's very good fun. Anyway.